Welcome, Laura.
Hi, Jill.
Hi. I want to take a minute just to introduce you. So, Laura Wolf, if you don't know her, Laura is a priestess, a teacher, a coach, and a leader in the emerging paradigm of feminine embodiment, feminine empowerment, and feminine wisdom. She's the founder of Shaman's Heart Sanctuary and Wild Woman Retreats and several live and online courses. And she serves clients all over the world. Her work is embodied, energetic, empowering, practical, mystical, and life changing. And I will add that I've known Laura, we should have figured this out 15 to 20 years, a
Something
really
like
long
that, yeah.
time. And we did yoga together in Kansas City, and that's how we met. But I think I was part of either your first or one of your very first shamanic breath work, like half day retreats.
Way
And that was a while ago,
the
right?
Wayback Machine.
The Wayback Machine. And it was a very powerful experience in its own right. But one thing that I really recall from that was how you held space for people, as we were processing that. I was just kind of blown away by that. So I am really grateful that you're here. I am really excited to get a conversation started about embracing the energy of our feminine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I start each healthy exchange with the same question for each guest. And that is, what does health and well-being mean to you?
Mm. Well, health and well-being it intersects with every part of our lives, physical, mental, emotional, energetic, sexual, social, spiritual, and there's so many ways of addressing all those different areas. And really my passion around that is addressing the sort of the energetic state, and the mental, emotional, energetic, spiritual are very intertwined. And the more that we attend to our inner state, to doing whatever the things that each one of us needs to do to help ourselves get there to a state of peace and equanimity, or energy and vitality, or joy, or accepting what is in the moment, allowing what is in the moment and not being in a inner state of fight against what is. There's so many tools that we have available to us now for addressing this, and we each have the opportunity to figure out which ones we resonate with most, which ones we enjoy and will show up for and do for ourselves, and not be in resistance to whatever it is we think we should be doing. But that inner state affects everything else. It affects the physical. It affects how we interrelate with our loved ones, or our colleagues, or our clients, or our constituents. It affects how we feel throughout the day, and that inner vibratory state of whether it's well-being or equanimity or relaxation and ease, whatever that is, that energetic state is what's creating everything else for us. We can't create anything greater than the energy that we're being, our beingness. And so that's really, my passion is helping people attend to their inner state, to be able to consciously create what we want to create with our lives.
All right. Yes, that energetic state, and it slides right into our conversation about drawing on the feminine energetic state. And so we're going to explore that tonight. But before we do that, I wondered if maybe you could talk a little bit about masculine energy and what that is and what that looks and feels like
Mm-hmm.
in our bodies.
I think that really the easiest way for us to understand the masculine expression of energy and the feminine expression of energy. And I just want to put the caveat at the beginning here that I'm not talking about gender identity. I'm not talking about sexual orientation. I'm talking about how energy moves through our bodies or expresses through our bodies, and how it moves and expresses through creation itself, through the world at large, through nature as well. So when we're talking about masculine expression of energy or embodiment of energy, the easiest way to think about it is to think about male sexual organs and female sexual organs. So the male sexual organ is firm, it's more solid, it's more penetrative, it's more moving forward. The masculine movement of energy is more solid, firm, direct, moving forward, either creating structure or providing structure. It's more goal focused, goal oriented, trying to get somewhere, create something, make something happen. I think those are some of like maybe the basics. That's the easiest way to understand that.
Yeah,
And
and I'm
then
thinking like well, we were talking before, as I was kind of setting things up with Zoom, and you're like, "Ah, you're working in your masculine," and I felt very like, like just get, I had this sort of like forward energy, right? So that's I'm just thinking how it feels in the body as well.
yeah, yeah. So it's very much that there's structure, more feeling more structured, and there's a forward movement of energy that's like getting stuff done,
Yeah.
making things happen, uh,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Well, and then let's juxtapose that with feminine.
Right.
The
So
feminine.
again,
Yeah.
if you think about the feminine sexual organs, then soft, open, receptive, spacious, receiving, and then, as you get beyond the sexual organs, just into the more the energetics, then feminine expression of energy is more flowing and fluid. It's spacious. It can be kind of chaotic and
Mm,
wild. Is more interested in the process of something than in actually getting somewhere and getting something done.
right. Being in the flow. So
Being
is
in
that
the
flow
flow,
state?
there's a more of a soft, circular, spiral, spacious, no real direction aspect to the energy itself.
That's about presence.
Well, presence is a great word. The masculine can be just as present in healthy holding of structure and moving something forward and accomplishing something. So it's a little tricksy. We need to make sure that we don't malign one of the other. Like, oh, the
Right.
feminine's so present, the masculine's not present. That's not true at all.
Okay.
And what
Yeah.
I'm talking about here is healthy expressions of these energies.
Okay.
Not the way these energies have gotten very distorted over thousands of years of power dynamics.
Well, so let's talk about that a little bit. Why is it that so many of us, regardless of gender, because as you said, it's something that's accessible to people of all genders, but in our culture is very masculine
Mhm.
energy, right? And so, what is it that has caused so many of us to lose touch with that feminine side of ourselves?
Yeah, it's such a big question, and
Okay, well,
it goes back
okay.
so far. It goes back probably 5 to 6,000 years
Wow.
with when humanity was shifting from being um, mostly goddess worshiping and having multiple different aspects of divinity, seeing divinity in everything. All
Mm,
people everywhere, all over the planet, worshiped the goddess in some form and saw divinity in everything. And then there was this shift into monotheism that basically said that God is male and that feminine is less than and bad, and the body is bad. And this just sort of this duality of thinking of good and bad, right and wrong,
mm,
lots of separation started to infiltrate the consciousness of Western civilization. And then, that was disseminated for thousands of years. But then you could look at the Industrial Revolution as being another major turning point where most of humanity was living more in the country, growing food, hands in the dirt every day, outdoors most of the time. Women were together all the time. And then with the Industrial Revolution, lots of humanity started leaving the countryside and moving into cities and working in factories,
Mhm.
which is factories are a masculine expression of energy for the
For
most
sure.
part. It's
Yeah.
inside of a building. During the Industrial Revolution, it was
Smoke.
very dark inside.
Yeah.
There was lots of machinery getting built and developed to create things. People worked very long hours, very poor conditions. And like, poor conditions are not masculine, but the energy behind the profit and productivity
Mhm.
being more important than well-being and connection and things like that. That's
So
where it's
become,
starting to get distorted.
well, so it becomes a values question then. It becomes what do we as a society value maybe?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so let me just add another little piece on there is
Yeah.
that so jumping forward to World War II in the United States in particular, women went into the workforce en masse during World War II,
Mhm.
and the jobs were more masculine oriented in the activities that women were moving into. And then we moved from there into the 60s, the Cultural Revolution, the Civil Rights Movement, feminine rights. Women went more and more into the corporate marketplace and then had to compete with men for jobs and trying to get higher salaries and equal treatment. And so women, I mean, thank God for the women that went before us that fought really hard that we get to have lots of rights and freedoms that we have now. And their during their experience, they had to act like men in order to be taken seriously, in
Mhm.
order to have a place at the table, in order to be able to negotiate and fight for us. And so all of that is, trickled down and matriculated into our culture. We live in a country who is founded on the idea of if you work hard, you can create anything. If you
Right.
work hard, you can do anything. And we're all, raised in that and percolated in that in this country anyway, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. There's a huge cultural narrative around that.
So there's the cultural narrative, and there's, like you said earlier in another conversation that we had, it's like we aren't conscious of this. Like we are moving in this way because it's just how we are raised, how we are acculturated to it. How could learning to access our feminine energy more intentionally, how can learning to soften and receive, how could that change the way we operate in our lives? And how could that change our relationships with others?
It's like, it's so big. There's so much. Well, first of all, I mean, just health, because this is the healthy exchange, the, what happens for women in particular is that when we are unconsciously in masculine expressions of energy, a lot of times, hard, forward moving, goal oriented, productivity more important than anything else than well being, then our bodies take a toll. We tend to accumulate a lot of tension in our head, neck, jaw, shoulders, protecting our heart. It affects our bodies, our organs, our sleep, our digestion, autoimmune diseases. There's just a million ways that being unconsciously in that energy all the time without knowing how to shift out of it and take a break and relax and become soft and spacious and receptive, it seriously takes a toll on our bodies. It After a while of holding all of that tension and armoring in our bodies long term, it not only makes us exhausted and brain foggy, but it often takes a toll on our sex drive. It's just really hard to feel turned on when you're exhausted and tense. So then that takes a toll on our relationships. Just the intimacy piece, that'll take a toll on any relationship. But also, when a woman is really tense and armored and exhausted, it's hard to connect with anyone, not just sexually, but just, to be able to enjoy your family, to be present with your kids, to hang out and have good quality time with your girlfriends. It's just harder to do any of that when you're trapped inside of masculine expression without knowing how to shift. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? There's nothing wrong with the masculine expression in and of itself. It's just one way of doing things in the world. It's when we're stuck and don't know how to shift that we make ourselves ill and prevent ourselves from being able to access as much connection as we want. And then sometimes it'll veer into power struggles as well of um, a woman being so used to being in charge, whether it's at work or her business or running her household or whatever it is, that she can't downshift out of that and allow herself to be led or supported by a partner in her life or by friends that want to offer her help and support. It's just like a need to be in charge and in control and directive all the time. So it just leads to power struggles in relationships.
and that's so tricky. Yeah, that is so tricky because that's, that power is where, I mean, that's where we want to be sometimes, right? Because we want, because if you move into that soft receptive state, tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels like a loss of control.
Well, at first it does, that's for sure. When we're used to being in masculine expressions of power, learning how to soften and surrender and drop and open into your feminine is very disorienting. And we have in our heads, we have power equated with masculine expression of power. And so there's a whole like reprogramming of your own mind and body that goes on when you're in the process of owning your feminine, and then learning that your feminine power is every bit as much powerful. It just operates in a different way than masculine expression of power. And
So
it takes
you,
time of embodying it and working with it to learn how to own it and trust it and not degrade it and denigrate it and dismiss it as not powerful, because that's just not the case.
and this isn't something we can just think ourselves into. It sounds like,
So,
so tell us a little bit about what you teach people in your workshops and your retreats. So when you work with people, how do you help them access this if it's not just like, I mean, everything you've said makes so much sense. And again, it's not like something I could like, okay, I'll just turn that on, like
mhm.
how do you teach people?
Yeah, it's a process of learning how to soften our bodies, how to be able to really drop down in our bodies, to start to center for the feminine, to center in her pelvic bowl, in her womb space, in her vagina, and start to access the creative power that is there. It's, this is the portal through which all of life enters the world, is through the feminine body. And so there is enormous creativity and power in our actual feminine form in our bodies. And it takes practices to learn how to drop all that armoring intention, to live deeper and more present in your body, and to start creating from magnetism and spaciousness and trust and pleasure and joy, and rather than from having to hunt it down and make it happen.
Hunt it down and kill it.
Uh-huh.
So, I don't usually do this in a healthy exchange, but I have in the past, and I know we talked about this. Would you be willing to lead us in a short practice that would
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and Jill, because you had asked me before about, how does this stuff apply to men, and because we have
yeah,
some men here tonight, I would love if before we go into practice, if I could
yeah,
speak
please do.
about that just for a moment. Yeah, I just want to presence that all of us have grown up in under thousands of years of patriarchy and over prioritization of masculine expressions of energy. And that's taken a toll on women and men both. And so for some men, witnessing the aggression of the distorted masculine, the way that masculine expression of energy has gotten very distorted in the way it's been expressed throughout history as rape, pillage, and plunder of women, of children, of people of color, of the earth itself. So there are a lot of men in our world today that are just sort of disavow their own masculine. I'm just like, I don't want to be that, you know? And then if there was an abuse of masculine in their early life, it could be like that too, of just like, no, I've seen what the masculine does. I don't want anything to do with that. And just sort of like disavowing of that energy and not truly owning their own healthy masculine power. And then there could be the whole other end of the spectrum where a man has been in healthy and maybe overtaxing to himself expressions of the masculine throughout his life, of feeling like he's got to produce and provide at all times, or he's a failure and he'll be a disappointment, and everything will fall apart around him if he is not on and active and busy and making stuff happen at all times. And so men can be just as exhausted from being overly in their masculine and have no idea how to let themselves take a break and slow down, or to allow themselves to receive some nurturing and some pleasure and some love and, you know, receive from the universe and not have to work so hard by their own sheer dint of will to make everything happen, and to allow the universe to co-create with them and give to them. Receiving is one of the major superpowers of the feminine, and men need to know how to receive just as much as women do. So I just wanted to presence that because we have men here, and that I had said, I had promised that I would. So men, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for listening and being a part of the conversation. I look forward to hearing anything that you have to say once we open up the conversation, and let's go into a little practice now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do you want people to go off camera, or what do
You can be on camera or off camera. Either way is fine. And you just want to be sitting comfortably. If you're with a partner, I would say, separate a little bit so you can be in your own space, so you're not all up in each other's space. And just take a moment to find a comfortable seat. If you're able to sit more towards the front edge of your chair so that your feet can be flat on the floor, that's helpful for lengthening your spine. And then if you'll just, once you get settled and get comfortable, if you'll close your eyes and just take a moment to really land wherever you're sitting. Feel your butt on the seat. Feel the base of your body on whatever you're sitting on. Just that in and of itself, bringing your awareness to the base of your body, is already going to slow things down and help you become more present and more connected to yourself. And then just notice your breath. You don't have to do anything to it in particular. Just notice your breath moving in and out of your body. And again, that's just going to help you start to get yourself and your body and your breath. And then bring your awareness to the top part of your head, your eyebrows, your forehead, your skull, your hair, and just notice what's happening there, whether it feels tense or buzzy, or you can't feel it at all, or it's just peaceful, whatever, just notice. And then give your head the instruction, soften. Just invite some softening in your crown. And then the same thing with the middle third of your skull. Give some attention to your eyebrows and eye sockets and the bridge of your nose, your cheekbones, the back of your skull, the muscles that sweep across your cheekbones and wrap around the back of your ears. Just notice and then soften. Just gently give yourself that message to soften. And then same thing with the bottom third of your skull. Check out your jawline, your tongue. So relax your tongue if it's stuck to the roof of your mouth. Notice the taste in your mouth, and around the back, the base of your skull, your occipital ridge, and just give all of that, again, that message to soften. And then bring your awareness down into the back of your neck muscles and the back of your neck bones. Notice what's there. Give the message of soften. Same with the front of your throat, the soft parts of your throat. Soften. And then while you're here, notice the cervical spine, the bones that are in your neck. And imagine that inside your neck bones, if it's usually about the size of a nickel or a quarter in there, where your central column goes through your neck bones, make it more spacious inside there. Imagine that it's more like the size of a golf ball or a tennis ball inside your neck bones. And then bring your awareness across the back of your shoulders, the upper back muscles, the front of your collarbones, your high heart area. And again, give it all the message to soften. And your spine as it goes behind your heart, to make your spine more spacious, like a golf ball or a tennis ball, softening behind the heart. And then dropping your awareness deeper down into your rib cage and the bottoms of your lungs. Breathe more fully down into the bottoms of your lungs and all the way up into your high heart. And as you exhale, soften everything, making more space. Make your collarbones a little wider. Make your rib cage a little wider energetically. Make your spine, as it travels down towards your low back, more spacious inside. Golf ball, a tennis ball, maybe a softball even. Breathe your awareness down into your low back now, down into your sacrum, that triangular bone at the base of your body. Make your sacrum wider. Make your hips energetically wider apart. Breathe down into your belly and soften everything in this lower part of your torso. Breathe all the way down into your tailbone. Imagine even your tailbone is getting more spacious inside. A golf ball, tennis ball, widening everything out, softening everything. And then we'll just add a little bit of movement here for the fun of it. So as you're softening and breathing, you can gently rock forward, kind of like cat-cow in yoga. So as you inhale, you rock your heart and your throat and your chin forward. And as you exhale, you tuck in your chin and curl in, bringing your belly button in. And just play with that several times. As you inhale, come forward, lift your heart, your throat, your chin. As you exhale, curl everything in, broadening the back of the heart. Each time you come forward, imagine that you're opening the front of the heart, softening and opening the throat, the heart, the solar plexus. And as you curl in, you're softening the back of the heart, the back of the spine. Let's take a couple more of those where you inhale and soften everything in the front body as you come forward. And when you curl in, soften the tailbone, the spine, the back muscles. And then the next time that you sit up, bring it into some circular motion. So it's like your hips, your heart, and your shoulders are going on a spiral ride all around your spine as you're moving and breathing and softening, and then start to act like it's fun and it's pleasurable. See if you can turn on a little bit of pleasure in your body, like, oh God, this is so good to have a body. It's so good to have a spine. Wow. And then if you want to add a little bit of sound to it, that'll be the creme de la creme. A little bit of sighing, or moaning. Lots of breath into your body as you're softening and expanding and moving in this circular spiral way. And then when you're ready, come back to seated and just pause, eyes closed or open, and just scan yourself and notice, how are you feeling now compared to how you felt 5 minutes ago? Welcome to some feminine activation. Thanks for playing.
Play. Thank you, Laura. Oh, thank you so much for your wisdom and your energy and your juiciness. Appreciate this so much.